Welcome to Dear Fans. So, Lou Samuelson is a basketball player who currently plays for she plays for the Phantom. She is currently a player for the Phantom, but no WNBA team, as she will be an unrestricted free agent in about 10 days. So, in about 10 days, she will be able to decide where she wants to play, who she wants to play for, and so on. And I think it is going to be an interesting one, and it's going to be very interesting to see where she goes because look, was not in need for Indiana. The fact that Indiana are basically saying we'll get rid of you to replace you at a minimum contract means that they really didn't want her, but also the fact is that she played the same position as Boner and Sophie Cunningham and was just worse in them all. She was just worse in them all, but I still don't think she's a bad option on the minimum. So while she's not a sure contract was awful, her contract was absolutely awful. You've now got a situation where she's actually going to be sought after, so according to Dave or Darren Wolfson, Lou Samuelson, or say. The Minnesota Lynx have expressed interest in Thankyou, and there's also reports nearly half the teams in the league have shown interest as well, so, how that they can get her on the cheap, yet they can literally get her on a minimum contract like nobody wants to take Lou Samuelson on $180,000 a year. But if you can get her as an end-of-the-bench minimum player, it's not bad. People still believe Lou Samuelson can shoot, like there are still people, just like Lynn Dunn, that will take a point on Lou Samuelson. Because she was good at UConn a decade ago, but wish Katie Lou well and landing on her team. Love this irrelevant and put her back with fee. Like the thing with KL is that literally she's never shut. Well, I've heard people all the time like Giarama said, obviously picture with her with the Sparks. I think Sparks might be interesting to go back there. I think if you're trying to think what teams other than the Lins could really go for, like the Lins. Definitely could. I think even the Liberty, like the Liberty don't have that much of a bench. They really don't like Kale. They don't have real backup power forward like Kennedy Burke and stuff. Like she can play the 3-4 off the bench for the Liberty, and kind of especially with John Quell there at the 5, Stewie on the floor, fee bit like they've got enough size. I think she'd be interesting there on the Liberty. And it's funny because a lot of the teams should be interested on the top teams, but I think it's worth taking a punt on her if she regains her form that she showed freaking decade ago. Like that's the thing, is like the only reason Lou Samuelson is in the league, the only reason she's still in the league is because she was good at UConn. Like that's a fact. She would not be like, we've got people like, in fact, Odyssey Sam signed a big contract, but last year no one signed Odyssey Sims. The only reason Thankyou's still in the league is because she was good at UConn, and you've got UConn tax and G or MSA keeping saying, oh, teams keep signing her because they know she's the key piece for a championship. She is a non-ending low 30% three-point shooter for her career. But for the minimum, do you take the risk that you can be the coach that can get the best out of Thankyou? Because there's been no coach so far that's done that really. Like she was decent at Seattle, I guess. And like she's the best warm-up shooter in history. Like I've heard so many stories with people at Fever games. They're like, Katie Lou just made 23 pointers in a row in the warm-up, and then she gets into the game and balls like there's never been. In fairness to it, there's never been a player like I've seen like that. So it's clearly a confidence issue, not an ability issue. So maybe the coach are like, we can figure this out. We can get Lou back to our best. And if you are the coach that does that, dear Lord, you're going to have some player in your hand. And I think if any coach is going to do, it'll be Chari. I think putting her in a no pressure environment where your starting 5 is set in stone. If you're the Lynx, your starting 5 is set in stone. You are one of probably the 2 or 3 favorites, one of the 3 favorites this as on so coming into the starting 5 for Carleton. But like you're not as good as Carleton, you're not as good as Kayla McBride, you're not as good as Courtney Williams, Nasha Heidman, and Grace Berger. Are there sharing the backup point guards at Judy and backup 2? Your job is to play 9 minutes a game and shoot 3 threes in those 9 minutes, and if you make them, cool. If you miss them, cool. If you make them, you're going to be getting more minutes. If you miss them, you're going to be CU from the rotation. Like that is Lou Samuelson's role right now with the freaking Lynx. If she goes there, if she goes to the Liberty, her role is going to be something similar. I'm trying to think of teams that could do with her. The Seattle Storm are in a really bad spot salary cap wise after the Gabby Williams contract, in a really bad spot because they gave Alicia Clark a near max. They pulled a Lou, they pulled a Lynn Dunn, so maybe she might have to go back to the Storm, but like she'll have played. There's a good chance that by the end of the summer, Lou Samuelson, who was drafted in 2019 and not signed on a hardship anywhere, will have played for half of the franchise in the WNBA. Like it's not a surprise. But I think if I was her, I would do whatever I could do to get to the Lynx there. is no better fit. You're gone back to play with Nephis Kohler. There's like a lot of UConn alum there. So you've got your gone back again. You're gone back to Fedor Kiyuz was Utah 2 say, not Utah Jesus UConn 2. Is anyone else UConn on that team? I don't know. I don't think Ken McBride was UConn, but you've got some UConn players. You got one of your former teammates. You got actually your former teammate who you were drafted ahead of in Avisa Clyer, who ended up being the best player in the world. And it'll help. And look, all Katie has to do, because there's one thing she did show at Indiana, and she's showing it as on Rival as well, is that she is a smart player. She gets herself into good position. She moves well without the ball. She cuts very well, and she tries, and she's going to try to play defense. She's not a good defender, but she'll try. She will try, and she did have the worst whistle in the W last year, either her or Leah Boston, but she's going to try. And with that, I would say still, if I was the Lynx, this would be who I'm pushing for, because signing Ty Lue, as far as I'm aware for the Lynx, it gives them enough salary cap to go after MMA. San post Eurobasket, and that would be the big signing. ML is going to be better than is she. She might be better than Diamond Miller off the bench. Like, I do think there's a role for her. I think he's going to be any brilliant, but I do think on one of these better teams there's kind of a role, and the reason why there was no role for the Fever and Fever 4 is because Sophie Cunningham and Lexi H are just better than her. They're just better than her. Like, Sophie Cunningham and Hull would start on a lot of teams in the WNBA, both of them would, but outside of Beck Allen, the next two best small forward, or like wings off the bench, or like off the ball, not non-scoring wings off the bench, both play for Indiana, who she played for, so you kind of have to get rid of her anyway. Yeah, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.